adios. Yeah, I gotta get it. Yeah, by any means. Yeah, I gotta get it, don't mind it. I gotta get it, don't mind it. I gotta get it, don't mind it.
Welcome to upstate New York and America's road racing mecca. It's time for round 9 in the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship as we head closer and closer to our championship finale. Hello everyone and welcome back once more. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, as always joined by the one and only Andrew Kinsella, and you can follow along with live timing and scoring by heading to RaceSpot.WTF/Indy. Follow along with your favorite team and drivers in both the real world and virtual world of motorsport. And Andrew, I mean, the last time out, what a race we had. We went short track racing at Richmond, which is always bound to throw up some surprises. The big surprise, though, was Andrew Marquez putting it on pole position and running really, really well until our one and only caution cycled things out very, very differently.
Absolutely. Richmond was definitely one of the better short oval races that I've seen in a long time. It had just a little bit of everything, drama from the pit stops, passing on the track, really great race. But here we are today at Watkins Glen for 29 laps, and what a racetrack we have for IndyCar. This is one of my favorite road courses for IndyCars. It's just so fast, so flowing, and there's going to be action throughout the field here tonight, Arjuna.
And let's take a look then at how the championship is shaping up, because again, it's a 12-week season, but only the best 8 rounds will count to the championship. Adam Blocker is now almost 200 points clear, and that might play into his hands, given that we are expecting potentially Blocker to miss a couple of rounds coming up with his commitments in the Real World NTT IndyCar Series. It is a power slide 1 through 5. We'll try and restrain our bias too much, but watch out for Hugo Olsen, who's only competed in 6 of the 8 weeks so far. He is being reeled on in by the ever-impressive New York native Andrew Marquez, Rashad Craig, Andrew Wood, Robin Glenix, and David Porcelli through the top 10. Let's talk a little bit then about this track though, Andrew, because Watkins Glen, it is fast and flowing with some slow speed corners, and it's one of those tracks where the compromise of setup is even more important than some of the tracks we've visited so far this season.
Absolutely. And the setup here is actually really, really interesting because you have such a high-speed track, these long straightaways, and these really fast corners, but it is really a high downforce setup that these drivers will have on today. You want the maximum amount of downforce because due to the high speeds, these cars carry so much speed through the corners, and they need basically every ounce of speed that they can get and every ounce of downforce they can get to keep the cars on the track. So you really have a unique sort of set of circumstances with all of these flowing corners, and then you have corners like the bus stop, like the toe of the boot and the heel of the boot, really slow, almost stop and go corners that you really have to have the car rotate really well on. So it really does mean that there's going to be a lot of compromise and a lot of different takes on the setup, but one thing that I can guarantee you is it's going to be fast here today.
Fast, flowing, and fun. I think back to a race I had here a while back where I had so much fun I blew the engine. That might be something we have to watch out for today, but we'll talk a little bit more about that right now, because let's talk about your track conditions as qualifying is underway, just over 2.5 minutes left. It's relatively cool though, 27 degrees in the air, 37 down on the track with a little bit of cloud cover over the circuit. The thing to watch out for, we've talked about the setup compromise, Andrew, that wind is going to play a factor as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really strong wind that they're going to be combating here. And one of the things with those fast corners and the high downforce is that the wind makes that much more of a difference. It just throws you a little bit further when you have to rely on your overbody downforce like these cars will here today. So definitely something to combat, but that lower track temp I think is going to come to a relief for many of these drivers who were practicing in conditions well above 110 degrees Fahrenheit, and so these cooler track temperatures is going to make for some interesting tire strategy, I have a feeling.
We're waiting to see the lap time coming in from the points leader and the defending champion Adam Blocker. 20 cars have set a lap time. Blocker's not in that mix just yet. Powering himself out of the final corner. Benchmark is a 1:26 as Dzubes goes up to 6th position, and Adam Blocker is not on pole position. Had to put in a benchmark lap time. It's only good enough for second. The top two split by just over a 1/10.5.
Yeah, really strong qualifying here from the Power Slide Motorsports drivers. They're 1 through 4. Malechka on pole 4 right now. Van de Sant and Carey just 0.2 of a second back of the leading pair. Adam Crane, the first non-Power Slide driver, and Rashad Craig with a really strong performance here. And he's really been strong all season, Arjun. I think he's really shown a lot of progression here.
I really do agree with you. We're watching now as RaceSpot's own Tyler Maxson works his way through the inner loop, through the right-hand sweeper. Very reminiscent of an oval corner with the banking and the way it's cambered in. And Mr. Maxson, of course, has plenty of experience racing here in the real world. Drives in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge Series. Great to have him at least behind the wheel. And he was telling me that new Watkins Glen, this new IndyCar as well, Andrew, that we've got this newer tire model that Tyler hasn't really driven too much with. He's loving this combination.
Yeah, I think that it really is a strong combination here. And you mentioned this new scan. This is a new scan, I believe the first time that we've gone since iRacing released the new scan of Watkins Glen. And so the curbs are just a little bit more realistic. Of course, the old Watkins Glen was one of the first tracks that really came to iRacing, and it had really been starting to show its age. But now with this new scan, it's bang up to date, and I think that it just produces, like Tyler said, a fantastic combination. As that was a little bit of a dramatic way, let's call it, to exit the session there.
Well, with that said, qualifying is over. We're ready to race in round 9 of the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. Let's go trackside in upstate New York to take a look at the starting grid from Watkins Glen International. It's a Powerslide Motorsports 1, 2, 3, 4 with Robert Malechka, the benchmark time, a 1:26.424. Adam Blocker will line up alongside on the front row, while Alexander Van der Sant and Brian Carey both a little bit looking for redemption after what happened yesterday at Mid-Ohio in the Indy Elite Series, rolling off on the second row. Adam Crane joins us once more. He'll line up inside of Rashad Craig on row number 3, while back in 7th, Tyler Dzube and Tyler Maxson, 7th and 8th positions. David Porcelli, 9th, while following on from pole position 1 week ago, Andrew Marquez completes the top 10. Michael O'Brien joins us in 11th with Christian Macarelli on his outside on row number 6. Fabio Ciambella in 13th alongside fellow Italian Dan Piazza, with Hayato Matsuda and Makoto Yamasaki 15th and 16th positions. Great to get that international flavor in this iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. Laura Gerhardt and AJ Musselman share row number 9, while David Grable, Robin Glenix are on the edge of the top 20 with Clint Martin and Eric Miller, the final cars having set qualifying lap times. The big surprise, and a driver that's got plenty of work to do over the 29 laps that we'll have here today. Will Lyon, no qualifying lap. Did he overcook it in qualifying? Did he push the limits just a bit too much? He's got lots of passing to do. But the good news is, Andrew, this is a track that you can pass at fairly easily.
Yeah, you can absolutely pass easily, but with 22 cars in front of him, he has all the work to do at this track, because while it is fairly easy to pass, it's still going to be stressful, and he's definitely going to find himself a little bit farther back than he probably would have liked. I would say probably best case scenario for Will Lyon, at least if I'm on the grid, I'm thinking top 10, and he'll take this from this race and maybe use this as a drop week, because he's been really strong on the road courses. But yeah, just a shame that he wasn't able to get that qualifying done.
And not just strong on the road courses. I mean, comes from a road racing background, but we are seeing him learn and pick up the tricks of the ovals, and now in that new partnership with the Indy Alliance Racing team, just seems to go from strength to strength. We've got the full pace lap here. It's not going to be a short one. We've got about 5.5 kilometers, about 3.5 miles for these drivers to build up some temperature and pressure in the tires. We will talk just a little bit about the tire choices. Only 2 cars have elected to start on the red mark alternate tires. The expectation here, Andrew, is they are going to be absolutely swarmed midway through these stints.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of fall off from these red tires, and that's primarily just due to the sheer speed and loads that the drivers put through these tires over the course of this track. You can see already just from turn 1, but particularly in that carousel corner, just how much banking there is, and that puts these cars under extreme amounts of load and basically torches these tires. So those red tires by the middle of the run will definitely be starting to show just how much fall off it's going to happen over the course of this stint. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because I do think that the Reds can potentially be viable at temperatures this low. But yeah, it's definitely going to be touch and go, I think.
You'll see here at the bus stop chicane, or as it's technically called, the inner loop, there are some new curbs as part of this new scan. It's not just the track surface, but the entire environment that's been updated. We'll see how aggressive cars are going to get through this potential passing opportunity. We've oscillated back and forth between various layouts when we visited this track in the past. Sometimes we run the bus stop, sometimes we straight line it down into that outer loop, which always creates a little bit of an interesting drafting opportunity in towards that right-hand sweeper. It's going to be fun. This is going to be frantic. 29 laps. The fuel window is 16 to 17, 17 being a slight fuel save. I do think, Andrew, we will see a couple of cars maybe try the undercut here, because the track temperatures aren't that warm, yes, but because we're on the blacks, even though they don't wear that much, you will see some drop off, and getting onto those tires early with the track temperatures in such a condition that you might be able to get those tires up to the optimal window quicker, rather than if we were on a slightly cooler track temperature. I think we will see drivers try something different.
Yeah, and certainly I would expect that the drivers on those red mark tires will be coming in at the beginning of the fuel window, lap 12, lap 13 area. But that's one of the reasons why I do think that those red tire strategies could maybe just be viable. If they can get some track position from the start because of their tire strategy, they might be able to, through some defensive driving, keep some drivers behind them and potentially make this work. So because we do have that nice wide fuel window, I think it'll produce a number of different strategies, and I don't think that there's really any clear strategy that is going to be better than another one at this point.
Well, I'm going to force a prediction from you here, Andrew. I don't want you to sit on the fence. Who's going to win this? Can Malechka hold off Blocker, who had that issue on lap 1 in qualifying, had to make sure he put in the time so he wasn't starting back in the pack with Will Lyon, or is maybe Adam Crane going to be able to work his way through these cars?
So putting aside the obvious pick of Adam Blocker because he's just been so dominant, if I had to pick someone else, I would go with Alexander Van de Sant. I think that he's been really, really strong on the road courses so far this year, and he's definitely, after the mistakes that happened yesterday in the Indy Elite Series, I think that he's going to be really hungry, and he's going to be on it from the drop of this green flag, and he's also on the right side of the course for turn 1 to maybe get in front of Adam, and if he can do that, I think he might be able to hold it off.
That's a good point, because you can't swing around the outside of turn 1 as much as you used to, so do watch for that, and do watch for some interesting track limits potentially coming in through the inner loop. Maybe not on lap 1, but maybe later in this race as the intensity picks up. Pace car is off, 29 laps on the board, and we're ready to race in upstate New York. Malechka picks up the throttle, and we are underway. 3 wide behind the leaders as they come down into turn number 1. Crane's on the inside of Brian Carey as Rashad Craig looks to try and go the long way around. No major dramas. A couple of cars.
Contact in the back.
Oh, well, commentator's curse maybe. I don't know about that one. Looks like Matsuda and Yamasaki maybe came together, but the top couple of cars cycling their way up the hill in toward the inner loop.
Yeah, it was a really good start at the front. Adam Blocker, you saw, covered off the front, and as we talk, Adam Blocker already to the front with the push to pass around the outside of Robert Malechka into that inner loop. Nice move from Adam Blocker, but it was really strong stuff from, I would say, even all the way through the top 10, but a little bit farther back, we did have a little bit of drama.
We'll take a look at that drama on the start in a couple of moments' time, but at least for now, they're side by side coming down into the boot section of this track. Michael O'Brien is alongside Rashad Craig. You can stick it around the outside here if you're brave under the brakes and you use the camber. O'Brien might be hung out to dry. Remember as well, O'Brien's on those red mark alternate tires. He needs to make hay while the sun is shining, otherwise he might be in a bit of a trouble. Look at Will Lyon. He's already up 8 positions to 15th spot.
Yeah, Will was really able to pick his way through that first corner, but he's really pushing it down the inside. That's not typically a passing area, and he doesn't quite able to put it down there, but he is really looking to make as many passes as he can while this field is still bunched up.
It is starting to stretch out, though. Line is now about 6.5 seconds back from your race leader, Adam Blocker, stretching his legs. Did burn a push to pass on lap number 1, somewhat unexpected from Adam Blocker. Usually we see him be a little bit more conservative with the push to pass over the course of this race. He now leads, though, by 6/10 up the hill. Draft being fed to Malechka. Will Lyon has gone and passed Fabio Ciamballa, now working on the rear end is Andrew Marquez, and this is a great start. He's just got to be careful, because any bit of damage that he gets here will put his hopes truly in the bin.
Yeah, it's got to be controlled aggression here as we see him already pulling out for another pass here. Doesn't quite make it happen. Look at that car hop as he goes across the curbs. And it looks like Andrew Marquez right in front of him. Marquez made a small mistake coming out of the inner loop. That's allowed Will Lyon alongside. Will he be able to make it down through the chute here? Inside
line is where you want to be through the chute, but Will Lyon, look at the confidence, look at the bravery. He'll have the inside line heading up into the toe, and that should be Will Lyon. Signed, sealed, and delivered into 13th place, and Fabio Ciamballa has a bit of the action as well. Marquez loses 2 in 1.
What a power move from Will Lyon, able to make the car stick around the outside. That was just sheer confidence and audacity from Will Lyon. Great move, and then Fabio Ciamballa with the opportunistic overtake. Sometimes you're better to let the car that you're fighting with by in order to not lose 2 positions, and I think Andrew Marquez just fought maybe a little bit too hard because Will Lyon was always going to find a way through there, I think.
They do say discretion can be the better part of valor, but at least for now, looks like we're safely through 3 laps. Malechka's gone fastest with a 1:27.996, the only car to have ducked below the 1:28 and had a valid lap time. Van de Sant went slightly quicker, but he did get an off track some point during that lap. That is something to watch for. Track limits and incident counts here as into the inner loop they'll come. Top 5 only split by about 2 seconds as the timing tower begins to light up. Drivers on the push to pass looking to not just make passes but defend. Tyler Maxson feeling the pressure from David Porcelli.
Yeah, Maxon actually locked up the brakes slightly into turn one, and he's been having a really great duel with David Porcelli here. But one of the things I want to bring to your attention, Arjuna, is that we're going to see, I think, through the course of this race, it's going to be very, very difficult for these cars to sort of break the draft here. So what we're going to see is we haven't normally talked about this, but draft is going to play a huge part here. Now, let's just look at this first corner replay that you see on screen. You can see that they get 3 wide throughout the course, but then, yeah, just a little bit of contact between, I think you were correct, that was Yamasaki and Matsuda, and I'm not sure which one drove into the back of who there. That was the 23 car. That was Yamasaki drove into the back of Matsuda, and unfortunately Matsuda lost a full lap while Yamasaki is 51 seconds behind the leader already. So definitely a disappointing start for them for this race.
Matsuda's actually come down onto pit lane, so I think that's what happened there. Brian Carey has gotten passed, I think, by Adam Crane. Not sure exactly when that happened. Rashad Craig deep at turn one.
My.
That looks like a technical failure. He's not getting back up to speed and pointed straight into the wall. We'll get a replay of what happened there, but disappointing start then for Rashad Craig.
Yeah, it just looked like his steering wheel stopped working there, Arjuna. He could not do anything. It didn't look like he could shift back into reverse, and it didn't look like he could steer the wheel. So I think definitely a hardware failure. Meanwhile, Will Lyon is continuing his march forward. This is some great action, but yeah, we're on board with Rashad Craig here. As you can see, he just basically, he loses the back.
He gets damaged.
Hit. Yeah, he got damaged there. I did not see the damage. So he lost the back, and then who was that behind
Michael
him?
O'Brien. Michael O'Brien had nowhere to go. The rear end just stepped around on Rashad Craig, and poor Michael O'Brien takes a healthy hit as well, and now might fall in. You can see the left front of the wing on the front side of the car is completely gone, and Will Lyon, who's taking liberties with track limits, which you can do at that corner through the heel. You're allowed to run wide as long as you rejoin the track safely. At least for now, they're looking okay, but for Michael O'Brien at a track where you do need that front downforce to get the car turned in, would not be shocked if we see him come down to pit lane, and indeed, pulls to the side, down on pit road comes Michael O'Brien. Yeah,
just unfortunate placement there for Michael O'Brien. I think part of it was just he was trying so hard to maximize those red tires, so that's probably one of the reasons he was so close to the back of Rashad Craig there coming into turn one, and then when Rashad lost the back of the car, there's just nowhere for Michael O'Brien to go. But how about Will Lyon? He is already up into P10, and he is defending. This is probably the most aggressive that I've seen Will Lyon, and he's really making it work here.
It's a track which does invite aggression. It's one where you get rewarded for controlled aggression. That's probably the best way of putting it. Knowing when to load up the tires and go for moves, when to hang back just that little bit extra and avoid forcing the issue at times, which is a skill that is definitely something that sim racers don't always have in their hands. What happens here to David Graybill? Looks like he's having technical issues, and then just 2+1, more issues for him. David Graybill loses the rear end of his car coming down in through the chute. He is dropped now down to 18th position, but still running, at least for now. We'll see if those technical issues might retire him from the race. About to be 5 laps in our books.
And Adam Crane is gotten by Brian Carey.
No, that happened a while back. I noted the same thing. I think we totally missed when that happened.
No, you're absolutely correct. I thought that just happened, but it happened a while ago. But it definitely looked like someone was into the corner coming out of the boot really close there. So I thought that was when Adam Crane did it. But no, Crane actually did get by Carey a fair bit ago, and he's really showing some pace here today. He looks like probably the only driver that is really taking it to the power slide trio at the front.
He's trying, but he is falling back about 1.8 now behind the podium battles. Brian Carey got on the bottom, up the hill in toward that bus stop to try and close the gap. 1.6 back is Brian Carey, fellow Canadians, 4th and 5th. And then you've got this great battle with David Porcelli, who has gone and passed Tyler Maxon, but Maxon is not letting him run away. Tyler Dezube in the number 11 car on those red tires might start falling into the clutches of Christian Macarelli, and of course then Will Lyon ready to pounce already, up 13 positions into the top 10. A remarkable start for him as he fights his way forward.
And he is definitely closing in on Christian Maccarelli in 9th place as well. So I don't think is content with just getting into the top 10 as I suggested off the hop. He is really looking to go even further in this race, possibly even a P5 and a top 5 if he can swing it.
Let's ride around on board for a little bit with Tyler Maxson, and let's see what it's like coming down through the 90, which is downhill, slightly cambered in, but you need to be careful of hitting the curb too aggressively on the inside. You need to cut it just that optimal amount so you don't run out too wide like we see with Tyler DeZube. I think maybe those red tires already 6 laps done, maybe starting to feel the pain. Then up through the S's, we've seen plenty of drama here in the past on RaceSpotTV. This time, nothing major going on. And this is where you steel yourself into this inner loop. How much curb are these drivers using? Maxson's being very conservative for a touring car driver. Usually would love to clatter those curbs, but you have to be a little bit careful, Andrew. You can't afford to unsettle the car too much.
Yeah, well, I think you saw with that one shot there just how much these cars actually are hopping around. Even though it doesn't look like those curbs really are very big, there is a bump sort of on that first curb into the inner loop there on the right-hand side of that first right-hander, and it throws the car up in the air, and it can definitely unsettle you if you're not prepared for it. So definitely preparation and practice is one of the keys here to being fast, because you really do want to cut that curb as much as you possibly can, but at the same time you can't afford to throw it away there, because if you do, you're going into the wall very easily.
I'm going to roast Tyler Maxson just a little bit. Not even 18 years old. Look at that Dyson fan that he's got behind him. That's totally overkill for sim racing.
Yeah, I would agree, but he does have those nano leafs set up, which look good. So we'll forgive him for the Dyson fan.
Yeah, fair enough. We will forgive him. Although hopefully sooner rather than later we'll get a RaceSpot's. There's a hoisting belt. That's the word I was looking for. There's a hoisting belt's logo sign that they can have that you can buy on their store. Maybe we need something like that for RaceSpot in the future, because that might be a little bit of a nice party piece to have. Second place is closing up. Malechka's dropping back bit by bit, 1.4 seconds adrift from Blocker. Van der Sant's closing, now only about 4 or 5 tenths back, and we're watching Will Lyon, who's now ready to throw the kitchen sink out and hunt down Tyler DeZube, and we're getting to that halfway point now with these tires, and I think DeZube is really starting to struggle. Yeah,
you can tell that those tires just don't have the grip left that all the runners on the black primary tires still have in spades. So DeZube, this is really the portion of the track that you find that you just can't do it quite how you want it, especially on the exit of the corners. And sure enough, here comes Will Lyon down on the inside.
Makes it look nice and easy, does Will Lyon, who carves his way through the field with clinical aggression. This is wonderful to watch, and remember as well that still has the potential, I would think, for maybe getting up into 6th, 7th place. Might be asking for just a little bit too much to go further, and DeZube, I think, might even come down early. Not sure if there's car looks fine. We'll see with the pit stop time if potentially there is a little bit of damage on that car that should be repaired. It will allow Dan Piazza up to 10th, with Fabio Ciamballa hunting him down as they come out of turn 1. A little bit bobbly on the exit for the number 13, who feels the need to go defensive, uses that burst of horsepower from the push-to-pass to climb his way up through the S's.
Yeah, there's such a long run from turn 1 on the throttle all the way up to this inner loop, and it produces such an inviting place to use that push to pass. But at the same time, if you don't have necessarily a downforce advantage, or if you don't have the run that you need, it can often lead to a wasted opportunity on the push to pass, just like we saw there.
We have seen different drivers, different styles of using the push to pass. There you can see on the left-hand side the number of usages for all the drivers. You get 10 allotments of a 60 to 70 horsepower burst, and how do you ration them out? That's completely up to you. Blocker and Malechka both have used 1. Van der Sant has used none. You got a couple of cars which have used 3. Robin Glenix has used 4 as well. Ciamballa gets all sorts of out of sorts there coming out of turn 8 at the heel. Just about wrangles that car back into submission, but now drops back to about a full second from the car in front. Just a reminder as well of how the track conditions are looking. 39 degrees Celsius. That's partly why we're seeing the black primary tires being favored, but it's the high speeds, Andrew. I think that's the primary thing. The load that these tires are put under, that's why we see these primary tires being the preferred option.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing that the track is heating up as well. It's, if I'm not mistaken, gone up 2 degrees Celsius since we've gotten into the sim and into the session. So these drivers are definitely putting some heat into this track. And speaking of heat, the battle for second place is really heating up between teammates Robert Malechka and Alexander Van de Sant.
I think you are right. I feel like it's gotten a little bit sunnier since we got underway. Maybe just the cloud cover has shifted over the circuit here in upstate New York. And look at Malechka just a little bit wide as they round themselves up through the toe. Can use the camber of the corner to get the power down bit by bit. That gap for the lead is opening up now, about 2.3 seconds as they work themselves into the heel. And Van de Sant is really looking for some redemption, Andrew, because he's been driving spectacularly in 2022. But self-inflicted mistakes have been an issue. A couple of things on pit lane, and yesterday at Mid-Ohio, it was a mistake from the lead of the Indy Elite Series race.
Yeah, it was an unfortunate incident for Malechka. For Van de Sant. Well, first of all, he had the leader at the time, Andreas Eick, spin in front of him, and he had to take avoiding action for that. But then, once he had inherited the lead, he got loose through China Beach and then down through Madness, and unfortunately lost the car there, and had to take an early pit stop. And then when he went into the pit stop, he sped on pit lane. So it went from bad to worse, but here we see a move on track between teammates, and that was a nice, easy move from Alexander Van de Sant. I think that there was probably a little bit of coordination there. Malechka saw that Van de Sant was probably a little bit faster than he was at this time, and just sort of let the teammate through. And that's one of the things that is really an advantage of racing with teammates, is because sometimes you can be under pressure for a very long time and it makes you very uncomfortable, but with a teammate like that, you have less qualms about sort of letting the guy behind you go and then maybe just getting a little bit more comfortable running on your own without that pressure behind you.
Having said that, the pressure might come now from the first non-power slide driver, Adam Crane, up in fourth. There's only about 2 and a bit seconds back from Malechka in that 14, so don't discount the possibility of the VRS Satellite Racing driver being brought into the podium mix. Will Line has disposed, by the way, of one more car. Has gone and passed Christian Maccarelli, as now he's up into 8th. Next target will be RaceSpot's own Tyler Maxson, 2 seconds down the road, as Maxson works himself into the penultimate corner. Watkins, Glen, let's talk very briefly about this new update that we've gotten, Andrew, because it's one that I think it's fair to say the community had been asking for a long, long time. This is one of the tracks just been around almost since iRacing's inception back in the late 2000s.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say this is probably the rescan that everybody, regardless of discipline, really wanted, because the other thing about Watkins Glen is you have so many different disciplines running on this track. So you have, of course, Indy cars, but you have touring cars, you have endurance cars, and then you have NASCAR running on the shorter course as well. So it basically touched everybody on the service. And I gotta say that just from a visual standpoint alone, setting aside the small details that the new scan has provided as well, but just the visuals alone are worth the price of admission for this new scan. It really looks so good, and it's such a big update from basically from, as you say, where this sim sort of started, because that scan had been current basically all the way back at the beginning of iRacing's time as a sim.
Maybe next would be let's get VIR updated with they have to find a way to preserve the Oak Tree, because that is just such a huge legacy, and that's one of the benefits that we have here on iRacing, of course, is we can take liberties with stuff if we want to, and I think that would be a liberty very, very important to do. And the reason I kind of bring that up is it was announced, I think, last week or the week before, that iRacing and the Sports Car Club of America working together on a new special event, a virtual representation of the SCCA runoffs, which will be coming to iRacing. It's going to be a monster day here live on RaceSpotTV. 8 hours of competition with the super sessions being utilized, all different sort of cars, but all racing at VIR. So maybe that gives us the indication that we are looking at the potential for VIR to get an update as well. Here's a look at the battle for 5th as Brian Carey very slightly opened the gap to David Porcelli. At 1.7 tenths was the separation, now up to about 1.2. Coming back and forth is that gap, but coming on strong still, there is Will Line. The question really will be, what happened in qualifying, Andrew? Because these are official races, right? We know that, you know, if you don't qualify well, you don't work your way through the field, the only thing you lose is iRating. But for example, we had the ISOWC kick off its campaign last year here. In a series like that, you can't afford to qualify bad, because carving your way through the field, easier said than done. Staying out of the carnage, easier said than done. And if you start off a championship like that on the back foot, that momentum loss really carries forward over an entire season.
Well, it's even worse than that with ISOWC because you actually had bumping from the field, which I can attest to because I didn't make the cut here in that first race of the ISOWC season. So, yeah, in the case of an open race like this, what it does is it presents you with a challenge, and it almost gives you a nice sort of purpose where like you sort of have a different challenge when you're at the front of the field and you're trying to hunt the leader down. But when you're trying to carve your way through the field, it's a very different mindset, and it's a very different challenge that's sort of in front of you. And I almost like it a little bit better to constantly be shifting your goal to the next car down the track. I find that it really challenges you to maximize every lap. Whereas if you're at or near the front, you're sort of weighing the risk and reward, whereas this is almost more pure driving for me, but that might just be my mentality.
Is that why you're not so good at qualifying in Lionheart?
It's why I finish well in Lionheart.
There we go. You had something at least to answer back. It looks like Andrew Marquez might have had a bit of a tumble off the road. We'll get a replay in a moment, but now the gap between Maxon and Line down to about 3 car lengths bit by bit. That orange and blue continues to rumble on forward. I think this pass is going to be affected very, very shortly. I don't think Maxon's going to be able to fend off the charge. Here's a look at the replay from Marquez. Oh, does he turn into aggressively there, or does that car unsettle itself? Maxon's coming in very early to try and get onto a new set of tires here.
Yeah, I like this call from Maxon. I think it definitely offers the opportunity where I think his tires were definitely starting falling away a little bit. He mentioned in conversations with us at the beginning that he didn't really have a good handle on the blacks yet, so that's a good strategy call to get off them early. Meanwhile, yeah, with Marquez, I think he just probably hit the brakes a little bit too hard, Arjuna, and especially as the tires sort of wear out, you start to have to play with that brake bias just a little bit, and if you don't, stuff like that can happen where I think he just locked the rear tires. It sent him towards the inside, he overcorrected, and then out into the outside wall.
David Porcelli has also come down to pit, but crucially for him, he will stay in front of the likes of Eric Miller and David Graybill, something that Tyler Maxon unable to do. Maxon has a little bit of a gap, about 2 seconds to Graybill, who continues to have those technical issues. Eric Miller not far behind as well as Graybill. I think looks to try and get a move on Eric Miller. These are scary, scary times if you're either of the cars not knowing exactly where the other one is.
Absolutely, and this is probably one of the scariest tracks to have a blinking car at, because this is what I like to call a high commitment track. Every corner you have to be very, very confident of not only what you're about to do, but what the cars around you are about to do. As we see Alexander Van de Sant and Adam Crane both on pit lane on lap 16 of their stint.
Leaves out Blocker, Malechka, and Carey in the top 5. Will Line will stay out there as well, so a bit of fuel saving potentially. Brian Carey burns through another one of his push to passes, now reaches 5 used, 5 left as he rations them out over the course of the 29 laps. Van de Sant will release himself off the lane in just a moment's time as clattering himself over the curbs in the inner loop comes Robert Malechka. There inset is Van de Sant as he comes out of the pit lane. Where will he be in comparison to potential traffic? He's got the track to himself, and it's hard to emphasize just how important that is, because if you now look at Adam Crane, he might have some traffic to work his way past.
He might have some traffic, but he might also have a draft that will help him mitigate the loss from those newer tires and potentially get him just a little bit more speed down that straightaway. So it all depends on how well the traffic works with you. So if you have traffic that doesn't work with you, it can hold you up. If you have traffic that does work with you, it can potentially be a big benefit. So there's 2 sides of that coin, I think.
Here is Blocker as he comes through the penultimate corner, we know. Adam Blocker likes to save fuel, but even now, as a left foot braker rather than a right foot braker, I think, yeah, it would have made sense leading by about 4 and a bit seconds. He'll come into pit road, so will Malechka. Surely we'll see Brian Carey diving down as well. There he comes. Expect Will Lyon then, given how hard he was charging, to follow suit. And indeed, top 4 now cycle onto pit lane. Where is Alexander Van der Sande? Of course, not expecting him to get in front of of Adam Blocker. Question will be, how big an undercut has he managed to get to clear himself off of Robert Malechka? I think maybe Van der Sande had a bit of a moment. He's having some technical issues, I can tell you as well.
Yeah, it just looks like his connection to the server might not be the best, but it does look like Van der Sande will get out well in front of Malechka, and he is even, I think, gotten just a little bit closer to Adam Blocker, and he is on he is on hot tires with push to pass right now. So this could be Van der Sande's opportunity to at least get back into the draft of Adam Blocker. If he can do that, he could potentially be able to reel in our leader here.
Might we see a similar thing happen between David Porcelli and Brian Carey? Of course, Carey now has to do the same thing that we were just talking about. Get the tires up to temperature and pressure as we jump on board with Porcelli through the bus stop. Oh, look at the line, so precise you have to be, given those curbs are ready to greet you and make things go wrong. Porcelli now 3/10 back. Equal on the push to passes are the two drivers. And now this is where we'll see a fun little battle. A bit more separation has formed between the top 4. This is the closest battle that we're looking at. If these two fight hard, they do have to remember that, of course, guess who's ready to come and pounce? None other than our friend Will Lyon.
Yeah, the march of Will Lyon continues, but I've been really, really impressed with David Porcelli so far in this race. He's done a great job here. Definitely, he's not on one of the big teams, so all of this effort is really, you see, coming from David Porcelli himself. So really strong drive here today, and then what can we say about that car hunting him? Will Lyon, he has marched through this field and hasn't put a wheel wrong yet.
This is where, if you're Lyon, don't push it. Don't push your luck. You've done great so far. As Alex Van der Sande punches in the fastest lap of a race, is a 1:27.600. Also tracking a battle between potentially Christian Maccarelli and Dan Piazza as they come in through the final corner. No major dramas just yet for these cars. Oh, yeah. Speaking of drama, Clint Martin might have had a bit of a moment on his own.
Yeah, there was an unfortunate moment with Clint Martin there. Trying to see what happened exactly. It looked like it was towards the heel of the boot. Yeah, just exiting the boot on that left-hand corner, Clint Martin, he just loses the back end, basically on power down, was on the curb, and then spins into the inside wall, and that looks like heavy damage for the 22 car. But meanwhile, on screen, the battle between Brian Carey and David Porcelli does continue here.
Carey's been able to open it up very slightly, though, just opening the taps, wringing the maximum out of that car now that he's got a little bit of an advantage with tires being 1 lap younger. Will Lyon 1.7 seconds back. Do not discount the possibility of a run from the back to the top 5 for Will Lyon in that 4 car, but slowly but surely he has got to start getting the passes done. The next time by will be 10 laps to go as Robert Malechka gets on the button to try and close up to Van der Sande in front.
Yeah, Van der Sande had a little bit of a slow lap the last time by. Meanwhile, Adam Blocker really turned up the boost and turned up the push to pass and put some distance in between himself and his teammate there. And then, yeah, as you mentioned, Robert Malechka using that push to pass to try and stay in contact with Alex Van der Sande. But I do think that, barring a mistake at least at this point, the battle that you see on the screen here between David Porcelli and Brian Carey is definitely the closest on track that we have.
Although you say that, side by side, here comes O'Brien, recovering from that damaged front wing. Around the outside in the inner loop, it's brave. Chambala will shut the door on him. Battle for 11th, 12th with Tyler DeZube switching over to the black mark tires. Got a long way to go on them.
Yeah, I don't know if DeZube will actually be able to make it to the end on this fuel run.
Neither will
He's going to have to go
O'Brien.
a long way. Yeah, so both O'Brien and DeZube, I think, won't actually be able to go to the finish. So really, I think Chambala has a good handle on 11th, but at the same time, probably this fighting is hurting him a lot more than it is the other two.
We'll have to now wait and see exactly how much they are going to force the issue back here in the pack. And of course, bit by bit, we work our way closer and closer towards the finish of this race. Van der Sand's now 3.5 back from Blocker. Porcelli and Lyon, they're now separated by about 9/10 of a second. I don't think that Porcelli's got enough to close the gap to carry. It will be Will Lyon that's going to put the pressure on him, as look at this, really closing, both drivers using the push to pass.
Will Lyon has just been on a mission here today, and I think that he's basically got the same pace as Adam Blocker at the front here, so I hate to put it this way, Arjuna, but it really makes you wonder what could have happened if Will Lyon had actually been able to put in a qualifying lap. Would we have been able to see him maybe take this win away from Adam Blocker? Because he's really showing a lot of pace.
No, he is really, and showing the level of consistency that when you're pushing this hard, it's hard to be this consistent as well.
Yeah, and he's just been putting on a clinic here, and just you can tell just corner by corner at this point, he's closing in on David Porcelli and Brian Carey in front of him. I think Porcelli's tires are starting to go off just a little bit, and it's probably not helping his cause, but at the same time, Will Lyon, he's just showing so much speed here.
They work their way in through the penultimate corner, 9 to go. It will now be a question of how hard does Brian Carey want to fight, because I don't think that Porcelli's going to be able to do much, and again, given that Carey's looking for some redemption of his own, some fascinating battles to keep our eyes on. Tyler DeZube will pass Michael O'Brien, who has come down to pit. DeZube probably not far away, 12 laps into his own run. Will Lyon, 4/10 back on the button once more.
Yeah, just creeping up ever so close to the back end of David Porcelli, and he is right there through the outer loop here. I wouldn't be surprised if Will Lyon tries move in the next few corners here, Arjuna.
There's a couple of places you can get it done in the boot. You can try it in towards the toe. I think he's a bit too far back. You can lunge into the heel. The only place that I would suggest, and not the wisest to try and effect a move, is into the final corner in the boot. That left-hand hairpin that up the hill you climb will see you close back onto the regular layout of Watkins Glen. That's the only place which I would suggest is not the wisest place to try and get the job done, but we will wait and see if that is going to happen. 2 car lengths. That's it between these two cars. Porcelli, of course, has tires that are a little bit older compared to the car behind. 2 laps the difference. And in terms of push to pass, Will Lyon has plenty in reserve. He's got 8 push to passes left at his disposal.
Yeah, I'd say Will Lyon is definitely going to be using a push to pass on every straightaway coming up here, but we've also got another monkey wrench in the works here. A lap car is right in front of this battle as well.
Look at that tower. Everybody basically using the push to pass now. Will the lap traffic play a factor? Will Lyon ducking and diving, looking for a way past, just too far behind to try and look this time by. And oh, he really sent it over the curbs, but somehow is going to take full advantage to slide it down the inside of Porcelli. Through the outer loop they come. Will Lyon doesn't have it locked and loaded just yet. Porcelli fights back on the inside line.
We've seen him do this once before, Arjuna. Is he going to be able to make that outside line stick? He's going head-to-head with David Porcelli down into the toe of the boot, and he's going to make that inside line work. What a move from Will Lyon. I can't believe how much grip he's been able to find on the outside of that corner, but that move started back in the inner loop. Will Lyon sent it over that curb on the inside on that first corner. Meanwhile, David Porcelli made a small mistake, got in just slightly too deep, and he messed up his exit of that inner loop and allowed Will Lyon on the inside through the outer loop and down through the chute. What a move there from Will Lyon. And now, just as quickly as that, I think he's got his sights set on Brian Carey in 5th.
That's griphacks.exe, if I've ever seen it before. Just immense amount of confidence. And again, I'll go back to what you said before here, Andrew. If not for the lack of a qualifying lap, Will Lyon is only 19 seconds back from Adam Blocker. Would we have seen a fight between the two of them as Tyler Dezube does come down to pit, as expected, not able to take that car to the end of the race. Oh, I love this sound as up the hill they'll come. 1.4 back, Will Lyon from a top 5 spot. How hard will he push the issue? Top 5 as they run. Adam Blocker is about 6.2 seconds clear of Alexander Van der Sant, who's working himself up the hill around the toe. Robert Malechka, 2.4 seconds back after qualifying on pole. Great qualifying lap, has not been able to convert that into race pace. Adam Crane sits there in the VRS Satellite racing car, about 5 seconds off the podium. He should be safe from the charge from Will Lyon because he has about 4 seconds in hand as we have 6 to go this time by, but Adam Crane cannot afford to make any mistakes at this point in time. Bit by bit, Will Lyon continues the charge, 1 second back from Brian Carey. If you're going to defend here, Andrew, let's say you're in that number 7 car, how do you play this? How do you go on the defense?
I think first of all, you've got to take stock of how much push to pass you have left, because as you like to say so many times, Arjuna, it's not just push to pass, it's push to defend as well. So that first thing that you got to do is make sure that you're using that push to defend exactly right and keeping Will Lyon as far back as he can down this section here, through the S's and down this long back straightaway. You can see Will Lyon, just because he's on the push to pass and Brian Carey isn't, he made up probably about 6/10 on that straightaway alone. So it's a big advantage to have that. But through that inner loop, that's the next key to the keeping him behind him. You've got to make sure that lap after lap you're not letting Will Lyon get a good run on you through that inner loop, because we've seen through this section here, Will Lyon has been especially strong, and even around the outside he can make these moves work.
I'm still scared watching him through the inner loop, through the bus stop. The way that he's clattering those curbs is getting me unsettled, and I can't even wonder if you did that in a real Dallara IR18 what your spine would be feeling as he closes even through the braking zone at the heel. Neither car really taking liberal use of track limits this time around. Carey just a little bit wider on the entry. Might get the momentum into the penultimate corner. It's just a little bit of a lift of the throttle. Maximum commitment, maximum reward. Will Lyon, 5 laps to go, and in terms of push to pass usage, they're about equal. It's all about timing that defense. Will Lyon pulling to the side. I'm not sure what he's indicating here.
I think he was sort of just letting Brian Carey know that he's there and he's willing to pounce here, but you can see that Adam Crane, Brian Carey, and Will Lyon are all on the push to pass here. So this is push to defend and push to pass, and we'll see if that draft that Will Lyon has is powerful enough to let him get a good run here on the Canadian.
It'll be interesting also the downforce configurations. If Carey's running just a little bit less downforce compared to Lyon, he might be able to just stretch his legs every single time on these straightaways. And remember, with 4 push to passes a piece each, they could be rationing them out to the end of this race. In towards the boot they'll come once more through the left-hand downhill section. Will Lyon starting to run out of time, but the reality is, do not bet against the orange and blue. And I think Brian Carey's doing the right thing here, which is run a little bit wider on the apexes of the corner, the entries, excuse me, to the corner, be able to carry the momentum. He just has to watch out. If he opens the door, Will Lyon will take advantage.
Yeah, if I'm Brian Carey, what I'm doing through there is I know that Will Lyon's probably a little bit stronger than me through that boot section, but what he can do, just as you say, take that wide entry and focus on that corner exit. Make sure that you're getting that power down perfectly and not allowing Will Lyon to get that run and potentially get alongside you in, like, say, the heel of the boot. But you can see, I think that's honestly just a little bit of sort of an intimidation tactic from Will Lyon, just letting Brian Carey know that he's there and he's willing to pounce. But Brian's got a draft right now from a lap car, which I think will spare him for one more lap, and he's using one more push to pass.
And Will Lyon is conserving the push to pass this time by, so now Carey will be at a disadvantage, but 3 push to passes to go. It'll be 3 laps to go this time by. Oh, for a moment I was scared. I forgot that was lap traffic. It will mean that Carey can use 1 push to pass per lap. What I'm now speculating here and postulating, Andrew, is maybe the pull to the right-hand side on that start-finish line is to try and time the run out of the first corner. You don't want to be so close that you get stuck behind them coming in through the S's, for example, because it can be difficult to go side by side through there. You want to maybe try and back it up. I wonder if he's backing up that corner just a little bit too much right now.
Yeah, that's very true. You do need to time it very well because, as you mentioned, especially with that long right-hander, if you're not alongside them through the S's, you basically can't pass them until the next straightaway. But the other thing to keep in mind is that now that Will Lyon has conserved that push to pass on this last lap here, is that where he's strongest is through that boot section, particularly basically on that straightaway that makes up the sole of the boot. That's going to be a place where Will Lyon can potentially use a push to pass, maybe even on the final lap if he hasn't gotten the move done yet. I think that's where he's probably going to use that push to pass advantage and possibly get a move done.
Will Lyon is looking great through the final sector. I'd even speculate that maybe it's worth on the penultimate lap, the final run down to the white flag. Use that extra push to pass, clear yourself into turn one, get the move done, and then try and boost yourself up the hill. Again, we'll go back to the point though, downforce configurations might be playing a factor here. It'll be 2 laps to go, this time by bit, nearing the checkered flag here as we work our way towards the tail end of this 2022 Season 1 in the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. Remember as well, schedule for next season has already been confirmed. Visit the iRacing forums and you can find out all about where we're going next season. Of course, I'm 100% biased, but of course the yearly trip to the Nürburgring Nordschleife is very much on my agenda and seeing how that one is going to run. And I know if Jacob Oster is watching, he's just hoping for some cool track temperatures so he can try and beat the world record here on iRacing, just held by a Russian Formula 3 driver. Adam Blocker is already across the line. It will be 2 laps to go for these drivers this time by. Good point noted by Justin Hess, and this is something that I had mentioned earlier today in today's event here, Andrew, is that maybe Lyon is just trying to get some cool air into the radiators of that car. If he's running a little bit too covered up on the radiators, trying to get as much speed from the car in a straight line, that might just be overheating the engine here.
That's a very good point, Arjuna, that I hadn't considered. Yeah, we saw that even in the Lionheart Series race that we had here almost a calendar year ago. So that very well could be what Will Lyon is doing, and it could be what's preventing him from using the push to pass as well, because that will introduce just that little bit extra temperature. But I think come the final lap of this race, all bets will be off, and you just sort of have to see if it blows up, if it blows up. But if I were him, I'd be starting to use that push to pass right now, because the better thing for him is to get in front of Brian Carey as quickly as he can, and then he will have clean air on his radiator no matter what. So if I'm Will Lyon, I'm using this opportunity and trying to get by Carey as quickly as he can.
And if you're wondering if that's possible, shameless plug, but head on over to my YouTube channel, search my name, Arjuna Kankipati. I have a video up of my own moment with a GP2 engine where, yes, my engine did blow. Then we were running the no boot, the no chicane layout, so it was a little bit of a longer run, but I was running in the draft of not 1 but 2 cars. But halfway through the race, if I remember correctly, my engine said no mass and decided to leave. White flag in the air. Adam Blocker is well and truly in the win. 9 seconds clear. I don't think Will Lyon is going to be able to get this one done. He's a little bit closer, though, coming out of turn 1.
And here we see Will Lyon on the push to pass, so it's now or never for Will Lyon, and I think that I'm going to disagree with you. I think he does have the run here on Brian Carey, and I think he's going to be able to make it done here into the inner loop.
Which way will Carey cover off? Lyon's going to be forced to go the long way around. We've seen this attempted once, and the car on the outside has had to back off. They'll be side by side, and Carey has to leave room. Will Lyon almost loses control, but into 5th from the tail end of the field. Will Lyon take a bow?
It is not done yet, though. Brian Carey still has the opportunity to fight back, and he's going on the Will Lyon route, trying to go around the outside, just doesn't have the grip yet. And it looks like Will Lyon might just be able to hold off the Canadian here.
Couple more opportunities. If that engine is overheating, will he risk using the push to pass? He will. That should be 5th, signed, sealed, and delivered for Will Lyon. But out front, and dominant here in Watkins Glen. Qualifying may not have gone his way, but the points leader takes the win here in upstate New York. Adam Blocker wins once more in the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. Great drive as well from Alexander Van der Sant, who will come across the line in second place. A little bit of redemption for what happened last night. Robert Malechka will take home the final step on the podium. Adam Crane, the first non-power slide driver, will finish down in fourth. But again, Will Lyon, undoubted driver of the day. 23rd to 5th. Carved his way through the field. Incredible, incredible drive.
Time after time, we don't know how these IndyCar drivers are going to be able to top the last time that they were out, and time after time they deliver. What a drive from Adam Blocker from at the top end of this field, but throughout this top 5, thoroughly deserving drives, thoroughly deserving drivers, and Will Lyon, as you say, absolute driver of the day, 23rd to 5th. Incredible stuff, especially that pass on the last lap. 2 passes through the chute on the outside, just incredible stuff.
I loved watching, and again, it was controlled aggression, and unlike what sometimes you see when drivers are right on the ragged edge, wringing the neck of their cars, he never looks like he was going to make a mistake, other than a couple of moments through the bus stop, but every time something looked like it was about to happen, he had the right amount of counter steer, the right inputs to get the car back under control. Will Lyon a top 5, but again, the day does belong to Adam Blocker. Winner once more here in the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. 29 laps later, here's a look at your race result. A power slide 1, 2, and 3. And Adam Blocker from Alexander Van der Sant and Robert Malechka. Adam Crane, the first non-power slide driver, down in 4th, with Will Lyon, who could have fought for the race win, down in 5th. But again, no qualifying, put him on the back foot, and boy did he respond. Brian Carey passed on the last lap, but 6th for him. Good day overall, with David Porcelli, Tyler Maxson, Dan Piazza, and Christian Maccarelli completing the top 10. Fabio Ciambalo, the car down in 11th. Last car also within 1 minute of your leader, while Michael O'Brien, Laura Gerhard, AJ Musselman, and Tyler DeZube all finishing on the lead lap. DeZube, again, remember, started on the red tires, really compromised his entire race. 2 pit stops required there. Michael O'Brien did a good job of bouncing back after seeing an incident with Richard Craig that saw him lose his front wing. Eric Miller, Robin Glenix, and David Grable, the cars 1 lap down, while Makoto Yamasaki had an incident in lap 1, turn 1, still finishes in 19th, with Clint Martin rounding out the top 20. Hayato Matsuda 21st, Andrew Marquez 22nd after a mistake for him down in towards the chute, while Rashad Craig, early retirement for him. Rashad Craig finishes down in 23rd position. And you said it again, Andrew. Every time you think these drivers can't go any better, they seem somehow find a way just to deliver some more excitement. Incredible, incredible race. And I just hope that maybe next time we're on a road course, the final time this season when we go to Sebring, the bumps of the Sebring International Raceway, Will Lyon can qualify so he can bring it to Adam Blocker.
Yeah, I can't wait to see one of these drivers really step up and take it to Adam Blocker on one of these road courses, because he just can't keep running away from the field like he has been. And it definitely looks like, at least judging by how strong Will Lyon was today, he is definitely one of the drivers that I would look for to do that. And of course, Adam Crane, you can never count him out as well on a road course. So definitely looking forward to Sebring in a few weeks' time. But before then, we have an oval to go to, don't we, Arjuna?
Oh, we do, and it's another short track worldwide technology raceway. That is bound to be plenty of fun. Bringing in, though, from Victory Lane, we now have Adam Blocker standing by. And Adam, talk to us first about what happened in qualifying. Lap 1 invalidated. The pressure was on in lap 2 to get a lap time in. You did get one. It was good enough for the outside of the front row.
Yeah, I mean, Rob did a really good lap at the end of the day. I mean, it was a proper lap to beat. Yeah, I did screw up the first lap, which meant that I couldn't go quite as hard on the second lap, although I did still push pretty hard. I think I probably left a couple tenths on the table, but it was still a solid lap. Yeah, then the start was really surprised that Rob didn't use a push to pass in the bus stop, and I did, and I got a good run out of cleared Alex pretty easily into one, so it gave me a good run on Rob into the bus stop, and yeah, I was able to kind of get the lead there.
Talk to us a little bit about the temperatures in today's race, because getting word from Powerslide that two of you took out a little bit of that radiator inlet to cool the temperature of the cars, two of you didn't. What was the call there? Why did you elect to take out that little bit of inlet?
Just because if you were further in traffic, this is a track, as you know, that you can blow up at if you're really in traffic the whole race. So yeah, just being a little bit conservative, because ultimately that's not going to decide whether you win or lose. So well, if you run 54, if you run 70, it could be why you lose. So that's kind of why I did it. Probably 70 would have been fine leading, but anyway.
So we've got 3 more races to close off this season. You're in a good situation in the points. The question I have to wrap things up is in terms of your schedule with your commitments as a trackside engineer in the NTT IndyCar series. Are we going to see you every Monday, or are things picking up steam for the start of the 2022 campaign?
Missing next week, but the last 2 weeks should be good to make it. Yeah, it was a bit disappointing, this SOF. We had good turnout, but the SOF wasn't quite as strong as some of the recent weeks. But yeah, still happy to get the win. And obviously want to thank everybody at Powerslide for all the work they've been doing on the setups and testing over the past few weeks. That's why we've won so many of these this season, and yeah, why we did a great job today, 1, 2, 3. So that's really cool.
1, 2, 3, 4 in qualifying as well. Congratulations, Adam, and won't see you next week. We'll see you then at Sebring and the bumps of the Sebring International Raceway.
Yep, looking forward to it. See you then.
That was Adam Blocker. We'll bring in second place Alexander Van der Sand. And Alex, I mean, looked like it was a fun little duel of pace between you and Rob Malechka before you got the power out of turn 1 very nicely. Were able to slot on past very simply. Talk to us about this race, because I know you were one who was struggling with the temperatures.
Yeah, this time I have an excuse for not using all of my push to pass, like a real one. I was like at 135 oil right at the limit the entire second run, so really couldn't afford to burn any more of those. Running my normal pace, like it stayed there, so really the second run, like Adam driving away, was more a matter of me just like overdriving the car and losing little bits of time here and there. But was able to pull away from Rob. We kind of had a deal, like see if I could catch or stay with Adam and keep Adam Crane behind us, but I was able to just pull away after the pit stop, and that was that.
A little bit of redemption for what happened yesterday as well. I'm sure this must be a bit of a relief for you.
Yeah, I mean, this season's gone way better than Indy Elite. I mean, hoping to make something happen in Indy Elite. I'm probably gonna miss a few races, unfortunately, in that. But right now, just focusing on bringing it home for Indy Open and getting ready for next season, and Lionheart starting up soon. And yeah, just lots of stuff happening. Just having fun.
And final question: 3 more races: Gateway, Sebring, and Pocono. Which one are you most looking forward to?
I would have to say Gateway. My heart is with the short tracks, although all 3 of them are awesome tracks. I don't have as much experience at Sebring. I've done, I think, 1 race there in IndyCar, so that'll be a learning experience, but looking forward to it.
Well, we'll see you then at your favorite of the 3 tracks next week at Gateway. Congratulations on second, Alex, and looking forward to seeing you at the Worldwide Technology Raceway.
Thanks, Arjuna.
And then the final step of the podium, the man that put it on pole position, but the race pace just didn't seem to be there, Rob.
Yeah, I was really surprised with the pole. I guess they went a little probably conservative since they messed up the first lap. But yeah, I probably was roughly 2-3 tenths off Adam. I probably matched Alex, but I was just having really bad heating issues the whole race. Alex and I ran the same inlet, while my other teammates went a little smaller. Yeah, at least me and Alex really struggled there with temps towards the end.
I know that pain. Trust me. I know that feeling.
I heard the story.
Oh, now I'm sad again. Moving quickly on, in terms of your development as a road course driver, we know you've got incredible pace, incredible strategy now on ovals. What's been happening over the last couple of months? We've seen the pace on the road courses just go up and up and up.
Yeah, I'm really confident on the blacks right now. It's just the red tires. I just can't find a limit. I'm really struggling with those still. I think you saw here that I was basically even with Alex, only a few tenths off Adam, and but on the reds, I'm probably a second off Adam and half a second off Alex. So really, I just got to figure out a good point with the reds and gain some confidence on there. And once I do that, I should be battling for podiums more consistently.
It's interesting you say that, because usually I feel like that's counter. Like the black tires have that little bit less grip. I kind of assume that people prefer the red tires, especially while they're trying to develop confidence and pace in a car. Kind of leads me, though, to my final question for you, Rob, which is, of course, Lionheart is not far away from getting underway for 2022. And with a schedule that balances more towards the ovals rather than the road courses, what's in store for you? Do you think you can challenge Adam and stop him from winning a 5th in a row?
It's gonna all depend if I learn how to use these red tires. If I learn the red tires, I don't want to be cocky, but I think I might have a bit of a shot. But at least on the old side, if I'm not at least podium, it's just a failure of a race. But yeah, like I said, if I can get a little more confidence on the red tires on the road courses, I won't rule out at least top 3 in points.
Well, congratulations, Rob. The polls show that you've got the pace. Let's see how you develop over the rest of the year. Congratulations, and see you then from the Worldwide Technology Raceway.
Yep, thank you guys.
So that was Robert Malechka. We're now joined by RaceSpot's own Tyler Maxson. And Tyler, not much practice, and I know that because I'm the one that told you that this race was happening, and you jumped in very, very last minute. But how much fun was it? You said that the car with the new tire model, this new Watkins Glen as well, it's just so much fun.
Yeah, it's absolutely awesome. And yeah, like you said, I think so. I did a little bit of practice, but on the reds, and then I realized that we were actually going to be running on the blacks. So I think I did about 2 race laps on the blacks before the actual race. So yeah, it was very limited practice, but a lot of fun. I don't think there's a better combo, honestly. This was a lot of fun.
That's high praise from the man that, of course, has the car that he drives in the real world here on the sim, that Hyundai Elantra. And I do want to kind of talk to you about that experience. For those who don't know, you race in the Michelin Pilot Challenge. You had the fun of putting it on pole position at Daytona with a rather bold strategy that saw you take slick tires on a drying track. What was that lap like?
Yeah, it wasn't actually that bad because we weren't really sure how the track was going to be, and we kind of got out there and we were like, okay, yeah, like this is going to dry up fairly quickly. So we did a few slow laps. I think we ended up doing like 4 just pace around laps. And like, all right, we have like a time for like 1 lap, just send it. So I just went full send on the 1 lap, and then yeah, and then we were basically out of time. So it wasn't actually that bad on the lap, but it was definitely a bold strategy call by our engineer.
What's the hopes then for this season, Tyler? Of course, I mean, let's not dwell too much on last year, but that was rough. Last year was just not your year. And not the other Tyler as well, who was your teammate.
No, that was not our year. I think that we had everything but a win last year. So this year we're definitely looking to get a few more wins. Just looking for consistency, honestly, because consistency wins championships. And that's ultimately our goal, but definitely looking for a lot of race wins as well.
Well, thanks for joining us. Ice cream in hand as well, which seems to be melting, so make sure you go and eat that now. We'll see you hopefully at Sebring in a couple of weeks' time.
Yep, we'll be there.
Well, that wraps up our post-race interviews here from Watkins Glen International. And again, one more short track here, Andrew, and it's one that I think a lot of people are looking forward to because we're going racing at the Worldwide Technology Raceway, not under the night lights like we usually do. It's going to be in the middle of the day. That's going to be fascinating. Warmer temperatures. How do drivers manage to extract speed from their cars?
Yeah, the biggest short track on the iRacing schedule, I think, will deliver some really fun action. And as you mentioned, those tires are going to be key coming up here at round 10 at Gateway. I think that it's absolutely going to produce some coming and going over the course of the race, some interesting strategy. But more than anything, I think it's going to create some slipping and sliding and potentially some incidents that we haven't really seen thus far this year with the caliber of driver that's come out to these Indy Open races. But yeah, I think it's definitely going to throw a little bit of a curveball for everyone here.
one more look at the schedule. 125 laps are on the agenda next week from Gateway. 2 races to go after that. 1 road course, 1 oval, Sebring, and then the tricky Triangle Pocono. You can catch it all here on RaceSpotTV. But that brings us very nicely to a conclusion here in round 9 of this 2022 iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. We'd like to thank you for joining us here on RaceSpotTV. And again, we'll be back same time, same place, Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, for more great IndyCar action. On behalf of the entire team at RaceSpotTV, for my co-commentator Andrew Kinsella, my name is Arjuna Kankipati. Delighted to have your company here on this Monday evening. It's so long and goodbye, but congratulations to Adam Blocker, winner at Watkins Glen International.